And you are live.
Okay, thank you very much, Nina. Thank you, IT, for that. We'll continue. This is our continuous review of the capital budget um, through the Planning Committee of Akron City Council. Is all members present? Sarah Biviano?
We do have all members of Planning and Economic Development present.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Appreciate that. All members are present. Plus, we also have the balance, or at least quite a few other council members on online here. So we're going to pick it up in the capital budget itself. We're on page 13 under public facilities, and we'll ask Helen Tomic or Jim Ashley to go ahead and continue. We'll observe the same way we had reviewed it last week, and in that we'll go a page or two, go through, say, public facilities, ask questions, and then transportation, ask questions, and we'll kind of play it from there. So go ahead and you guys can begin. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try to move along rather quickly, but yeah, you're free to stop me. The public facility is $6.7 million. This is a 32% decrease from the 21 capital budget of 9.9. This reduction is due in large part to a $4 million FAA Airport Runway 725 rehab project, which we were doing. So the first project on this slide is Akron Center Garage Concrete Repairs and Waterproofing Phase 1. It's also known as the Super Block Parking Garage, located at 11 West Mill Street and serves Akron Center Plaza. Improvements include concrete repairs, waterproofing, and expansion joint replacement. The next four projects address renovations at the Akron Executive Airport. The first is the Airport General Consulting Services, $165,000 for general consulting services by CNS consultants to cover grant submissions, land leases, and land releases. And the next project, FBO Hangar Roof Replacements, $160,000. This is a carryover project to re-roof the hangar portion of the FBO building. Construction for this is scheduled to begin in the summer of 2022. The airport taxiway lighting phase 2 is $1.2 million. This is new LED taxiway lighting and signage of the Taxiway P to meet the latest FAA standards. And this is pending an FAA grant approval. And this is the long green taxiway highlighted on the below aerial. And then the airport taxiway lighting phase 1 is for $57,480. This is closeout charges and construction inspection of the 5 smaller connecting taxiways, which are highlighted in red. And on the next slide when you're ready.
Yes.
Okay, the Canal Park Stadium, $1.3 million. This is a 2021 carryover for new stadium seating and waterproofing. The new seats have been ordered and they'll be installed prior to opening day, which is April 12th. And the concrete ceiling is nearing completion. The following two projects address the continued rehab of the Cascade Plaza parking deck. The first project is the garage concrete repairs at $500,000. Work includes concrete repairs to the parking garage floors. These items were identified in a comprehensive parking deck study performed by Walker Consultants. Level 2 will be done in 2022, level 3 in 23, and 4 and 5 in 2024. The Cascade deck elevator modernization for the green and orange elevators, $100,000. This is a multi-year program to update the door operator, the clutch roller, tracks, and closers, which are all 30+ years old. The orange elevators are currently being designed. It's anticipated that drawings and specs will be completed in the spring. Anticipate the drawing and specs for the green elevators this summer. Next project is the Merriman Valley train station, $350,000. Construction of a Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad train station to boost economic growth within the Merriman Valley Great Street District. The city has 1.1 acres behind the Valley Mart convenience store, which is located at 1752 Merriman Road. And the last on this page is the Dan Street Police Training Bureau facility improvements at $400,000. This is HVAC and roof replacement at the Dan Street Police Training Facility located at 800 Dan Street.
Okay, there we go.
The next slide is the facility improvement program for fire at $250,000. This is their annual program to proactively determine major improvements required for the older fire stations not currently scheduled for replacement. Fire Station 12, we have $80,000. Design development of plans for Fire Station 12, which is going to be relocated from 1852 West Market Street to 112 South Hawkins Street. The site package for this has been bid. Greystone Roof Replacement, $570,000. This is a 2021 carryover. Construction for this is scheduled to begin this April. Miscellaneous improvements for public service, $250,000. Miscellaneous improvements to public buildings and structures, including upgrades to doors, security, generators, lighting, HVAC, and roof repairs. And this does include the Municipal Service Center. And then the Municipal Center fire alarm and sprinklers is at $50,000 for design of fire suppression for buildings 1, 1A, 1B, garages, as well as buildings 2 and 3. Next slide is the MSC Roof Replacement 1B. And this is a carryover from 2021 to remove and replace the roof over the 1B garage addition. The Municipal Building Roof Replacement at $250,000. Construction for this is scheduled to begin this April and run through July. The parking deck lighting upgrades at $200,000. This is an annual program to upgrade existing lighting to LED at our public decks. This is a phased approach for each deck. The payback on the new lighting is approximately 2 to 3 years. Budgeted $100,000 in 2021, and they use that at the Cascade Plaza parking deck. Other decks include Broadway, High Market, Morley, and Opportunity Park. And then the last two projects address the Stubbs Justice Center. The first one is the Stubbs Justice Center elevator modernization at $200,000. The amount shown here is for the design of all 5 elevators, 3 public, 1 employee, and 1 prisoner. Each elevator modernization is estimated at $600,000. And the final project, the Stubbs Justice Center improvements. Funding here should be income tax, and it's for minor repairs, replacement of office equipment and flooring.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We'll accept questions at this point. I have a couple on myself. In terms of the, so this is the carryover for the Canal Park Stadium. The 1.3 million is a carryover, correct?
Yes.
Very good. Now, Station 12 that you had mentioned, of course, we have legislation before us in committee that addresses that, and that expense of like 1,000,003 or so, 1,000,002. And of course, that's from income tax for issue 4 funds, I do believe, and reference that. So therefore, I'm assuming that whenever we come in with our budget adjustment in the next week or couple weeks, that will be reflected. However, though, I'm also assuming that within that, as typical and as usual, we're gonna show where that money's gonna come from within the budget, correct? That million.
That is correct.
You're gonna have to
That is
find
correct.
somewhere
Yes,
issue 4 funds.
That is
That
that is correct. When we released this budget to Planning Commission in early December, we were not aware what the status of Fire Station 12 was going to be. So that's the adjustment, and we will address that in our amended legislation when you get that within the next week or 2.
Good. And that's what I'm suspecting, that that's exactly what happened, because they change and evolve before we even, see them even sometimes. And the other piece is, you'd mentioned in terms of the Stubbs building, did you say, and maybe I missed it or something, 600,000 for Stubbs altogether?
That will be when the elevators are repaired. This is just for the design of all 5, the 200,000.
Given the status of the Stubbs and such, I was just curious, like how far we want to go with regards to upkeep and so on and so forth on that. So probably want to have some more discussions before we get too far on that. So on Stubbs. So that's the extent of mine. I believe Mr. Malik, I had seen his hand first, and then Tara Mosley next. So Mr. Malik.
I think my colleague was first, so I'll defer to her.
Oh, okay. I apologize, Tara. I didn't notice.
No worries. I'm really piggybacking off what you said. If we could have a conversation about the Stubbs building before we dive into that, because I'm really concerned that we're about to put that kind of funding into this building.
We are aware of that, but we have heard that the elevators need some attention.
Yeah, they
So
do.
we-
They
yeah,
do. But
yeah.
I just, modernization and designing and all that, I think we should probably have a conversation about.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Repair versus replace, I think, is what
Mhm.
the concern is. We share that. Very good. Mr. Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going first to the Canal Park, I think we've all discussed this project, but there was some language in the PDF memo expanding DORA. Was that extraneous, or are some of these costs going to go towards the expansion of the DORA?
Someone from service. Go ahead, Helen.
I'm not familiar with that, so I defer to somebody from engineering or service regarding that question.
We don't have to answer it right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we
this is Travis. As far as I know, those costs are just for the construction and the seating of the stadium.
Okay.
That is
Those
correct.
are costs in there.
That is correct.
The second on the train station, I think I'm really glad to see that in here. I know, working with all the partners in the Valley have been trying to move that forward. So I'm glad about that. And then on the elevator piece, I guess that I'm of two minds about this. I hear what my colleagues are saying, that you don't want to spend, potentially several $1 million on redoing all of the elevators, given the condition of the building. But also, I think we all know how frustrating the elevator usage is day to day right now. So I definitely agree that we should have a broader conversation about Stubbs. But perhaps one solution is not completely redoing all of the elevators, but at least, rushing to do at least one of them in the short term, because, even doing the design for a year and then doing a new, rehab or refurbishment or a new one next year, even that delay may, be difficult for folks over the next year. And then the question that I had, I know, Mr. Luddle, we've talked about this a couple of times about solar panels on roofs of buildings. And I know, for each of the buildings, it's been something that's been considered and looked at. But with regard to these specific buildings or buildings going forward, kind of what has been the thinking about the potential of putting solar panels on some of these roofs?
We are preliminary looking at that, Councilman. We did activate the solar panels that were left on the bounce facility. Those are now active, even though it's just for lighting for the stairwells. We're looking at a solar array on our Akron Energies, the old tipping floor building, and possibly we're applying for some grants, as we said before, for electric street sweepers. This is very preliminary, but we are looking at that. As far as the parking decks go, just upgrading those to LED lights, as Mr. Ashley said, the payback is very rapid. This project will put us at 2/3 complete with that deck, which is obviously our largest deck. So that's our goal, to upgrade all these to LED, and then the feasibility of putting arrays on there to power these lights.
Absolutely. And, I know that there has been a lot of work done with regard to LED lighting. It would be wonderful to see. I think I had heard that we were putting together a summary of some of that just to show folks what has been done and kind of challenge ourselves to, redouble our efforts in some of the other areas. But thanks for that update.
Well,
Very good. Further questions or comments? Very good. We'll move into transportation at this point.
Correct. So transportation. We'll start off with the Canton Road East Market Street intersection. This is a construction of a roundabout at Canton Road and East Market intersection. This was a high crash area, dangerous intersection with a high traffic congestion. Construction began in March of 22 and completed in March of 2021, completed in October of 2021. And we are wrapping that up with some minimal minor work to be done in 2022. The East Exchange Street, Complete Street, this is a $4 million project. Design and preliminary plans for improvements are complete. We are going to look at interconnecting signals, bike lanes, parking, pedestrian, and making pedestrian improvements. We have secured funds from CMAQ Safety and STBG. We're also pursuing OPWC. We are looking to bid this project in June of 2022. The East Market Street study, we're looking at approximately $75,000, looking to determine lane requirements, including bike lanes, buses, and pedestrians along the entire length of Market Street to look at future complete street project. Main Street Corridor Promenade Phase 2, we're looking at approximately $7 million in 2022. This is the ongoing reconstruction of the Green and Complete Street Gateway Corridor. Project is from Mill to State Route 59. This was awarded in 2020. Most of the construction began in 2021, and we're hoping to complete this by April of 2022. The Mall Avenue street improvements, this is going from South Hawkins to Schneider Park, approximately $3.8 million. Full improvements along Mall Avenue from, as I said, South Hawkins and Schneider Park Drive. Design work is complete. We will be advertising shortly, and construction will begin when the weather breaks and completed by the end of 2022. The Main Street Complete Street Study, North Main Street Complete Street Study, we're looking at going from the Route 8 Bridge to Cuyahoga Falls Corporation lines. This could include a road diet with bike lanes, signalization, paving, sidewalks, parking, and streetscapes. We have applied for and received some funding from the federal government. We are pursuing other funding sources, but right now that project is in design phase, and hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll start that project. The South Main Street over the CSX, this is approximately $50,000 of general obligation funds. It's a study to determine the maintenance needs and repairs that will be required on this project in upcoming years, and then looking at funding opportunities and future funding partners. The State Route 261 DART RAND project, approximately $1.6 million. These are signal upgrades, replacements along State Route 260 at Rand and Dart, including backplates, new signals timing, new pedestrian buttons, and signals. Construction began in November of 2021 and is scheduled to be completed in 2022. Talmadge Avenue street improvements. These are closeout charges for the street Talmadge Avenue project. We're hoping to complete everything by May of 2022. Bowery Street Bridge project. This is a $300,000 for a study to determine the maintenance needs and repairs for the Bowery Street Bridge. Looking at initial design and applying for additional funding opportunities, looking to begin construction in 2024. The Goodyear Boulevard bridge over the railroad, approximately $3 million. The design and the total replacement of the Goodyear Bridge over the railroad, the bridge funds have been awarded. OPWC application has been submitted, and we're looking to begin construction in July of 2022. The Stuber Street Bridge over the Little Cuyahoga is approximately $65,000 in 2022. We're looking at closeout charges. This bridge was identified as a high priority due to folding concerns. The construction is complete, and we're looking at punch list items to get this completed by the end of 2022. Bridges and expressways. Waterloo Road, Brewster Creek box culvert, approximately $1.3 million. This bridge was identified as a high priority due to folding concerns and looking at replacing the box culvert. Construction will begin in January 22 and will be completed by June of 2022. The Akron Beltway and Princeton Street Bridge. This is a huge ODOT project. We're looking at $45 million. All of this is coming from ODOT. The $45 million is ODOT. The $3,000 would be city funds. Looking at aesthetic improvements and a major expressway rehabilitation project. Our share would just be the Princeton Street Bridge improvements and some inspection costs. Beardsley Street is a $280,000 project. This would be replacement of curb and sidewalks and surfacing along the new high school between Archwood and North Firestone. The Bellowood Drive improvements, $40,000 in 2022 for design costs. This would be for the replacement of deteriorated concrete pavement with asphalt pavement, looking to submit a OPWC application as well. Castle Boulevard Rail Crossing, a project of about $127,000. We have heard of some safety problems along this rail crossing. This will install a traffic signal at Castle and Windhurst Drive for the railroad cross signal, and we're hoping for this to be completed this year. High Main Street two-way conversion, $100,000 of GO, studying the traffic study to investigate the feasibility of converting High and Broadway into two direction streets. Looking to look at that in the next year. The Merriman Valley traffic study. This would be a traffic study to look at safety improvements along the Merriman Valley corridor. The Oak Park improvements, looking at design work for water, sewer, and sidewalk and utility improvements to support the possibility of new construction in the Oak Park area. The study of an updated school traffic plan. We have for a couple of years received funding for Safe Routes to School. They do require a 5-year plan for future funding for these activities. So this would bring us up to date with our 5-year plan for the updated school travel plan. And we're hoping that will take place this year. The residents at Good Park, that project will hopefully start in the next couple of months. This would look at full improvements of the streets, including water and sewer upgrades in support of that project for the new construction that will take place. City Sidewalk Program. This is an annual continuation of our sidewalk program based on homeowner request. Last year, we addressed 121 requests. I should probably switch the slide here. Sorry, where is that? Where is my sidewalk program? It's not on the spreadsheet.
It's after resurfacing.
Is it after resurfacing? Okay. So let's go into resurfacing program. The annual resurfacing program, we have some carryover money from 2021, about $7.1 million of income tax, gas, and special assessments. We're also projecting $7 million of 22 resurfacing dollars, income tax, gas funds, and special assessments. And then we're also looking at Arlington Street resurfacing at $1.5 million. This would go from Erickson to the Munson Street corridor. And then another $50,000 for our ongoing bicycle network program. Concrete street repair is about $1.5 million. This is something that we've been looking at for a couple of years. We do have concrete issues throughout the city, so this would provide spot repairs and partial replacements in certain segments of the city. Like I said, $1.5 million. We do have an ODOT resurfacing project at State Route 764 and 241. It's about $38,000 that would be coming from the city funds. No, I'm sorry, that's $2.1 million of city funds. We're also looking at a state project, Smith Road resurfacing. That is $38,000 coming from the city, and the remainder of that would be coming from the state of Ohio. And then additionally, State Route 93 and State Route 162, another state project, an ODOT project of $1.7 million. And here we go. Here's the sidewalk program. So this is about $570,000 as I had indicated. We addressed 121 requests, and that would cover us from requests made to from January 2021. We currently have 201 requests on our list, and we're not sure about how much that will address, but we're looking at about $570,000 in 2022. And with that, we can open it up to questions.
Thank you, Helen Tomic. First thing I'd like to request, and I see Tara has raised her hand, Tara Mosley, but perhaps it might be prudent sometime when things slow down, if ever, that we get or receive Mr. Capper, or bringing someone in from the state of Ohio, so we can all get a presentation in reference to our expressway upgrade, because that's a huge project, obviously, very huge. And so I'd recommend that that would be the appropriate committee for that to go through. So just keep that on top of our mind, perhaps. And then the other question for you, Helen Tomic, is the infrastructure bill and how that's going to affect this, and how are we going to navigate that? I know it's probably not totally settled in terms of where that's at from the federal side, but how is that going to be handled? How are we going to deal with that piece of it?
So at our last meeting, I believe there was a request for more information on the infrastructure bill. And so we are working on putting together a 1 to 2 page information sheet for you guys. And I'm going to give this a stab at what my interpretation is. And then either Mr. Little and Mr. Capper can also comment on that. Right now, the bill itself has been released. We don't have any guidance. We don't have any final rule as to what that's going to look like. What we are hearing, some of the funds will go through the state. And we are also hearing that it could just be, instead of, like we mentioned on here, like the raise, it was called the Tiger program, and now it's called raise. Instead of it being an annual of $1 billion, it could just now be $2 billion. So they're not creating any new projects. They're expanding its funding of existing projects or programs, if that makes any sense. Like I said, and what and then it's also my understanding that it will go, some of these funds could go through the state. Chris and or Travis, do you want to add anything more to that?
Yeah, that's how I'm understanding it too. So, right now we get a lot of our money, even though it's federal money, it funnels through ODOT.
Mhm.
You have to apply and, get grant funding or whatever. And it would, as I understand it, it's just an expansion of those funds. So it'd be kind of similar programs, but there'd be more money available.
And I'll just touch on what Travis said in terms of funding opportunities. They will be competitive grant opportunities. So unlike CARES Act and COVID, where we received our share, it looks like the transportation bill, we will have to apply for and compete against other communities in the state for state-funded projects. But if they're federally funded projects, then we'll have to compete with other communities across the country for that.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, well, as it becomes clear, we'd like to know exactly where we're at on some of it.
Absolutely.
Obviously, and a presentation should hopefully forthcoming.
What we're also hearing, we may not get any additional guidance in some projects for 6 months to a year.
That's fair and understandable. I know this takes time for us to get through everything, but we're watching just as much as everyone else is, of course. So with that, I'm not sure who was first in line here. I think Tara Mosley was first. Is that what I should assume? And then Mr. Lombardo. So Tara Mosley, questions?
Councilwoman Mosley, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Councilman Fusco. Helen, I don't want to put anything else on your plate, and I apologize for even requesting this.
No worries.
Can you give us a breakdown of when it refers to design? Because as I hear the line items, I keep hearing design, and some of these price tags are pretty hefty for designs. Even like example, the Bowery Street Bridge design. It doesn't say design and replacement. It just says design, and that's pretty heavy. And most of them say that. They don't say design and replacement. So if you could sort of kind of give us an idea, how much are we spending out on just designs for these projects? I'd like for us to have an idea what that looks like. Secondly, the the East Market traffic study, another thing, designs and studies. I want to have a conversation with whomever is over this part of the department, because I think we should have had a study before we made East Market a one-lane street. Now we're having a study on the street we made a one-lane traffic. So I'm just trying to think, where did that come from that now we're having a study where we probably should have had one before we moved over to one lane. So it seemed like we're going backwards instead of forwards with that concept. And does the complete streets involve roundabouts? Are we putting more roundabouts in other places? Because it seemed like they're everywhere. And so I see we have a lot of complete street stuff going on. Does that involve roundabouts everywhere?
I will defer to Travis and or Chris.
I can answer. Complete street doesn't mean a roundabout. We'll look at roundabout if it fits, if it's a safety issue or there's a lot of crashes or whatever, then, maybe that's a good candidate for roundabouts. But complete street just means basically we look at everything, pedestrians, bicycles, vehicles and everything. We try to address everything in one project.
Okay, thanks, Travis. And then lastly, just to pull one out of the resurfacing on Beardsley, it's a resurfacing. These are, when we talk about resurfacing, we're talking about using issue $4, correct?
So-
Not in every project, okay? But we were going to use a little bit on Beardsley out of issue 4, yes.
Okay. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lombardo?
Thank you. So Helen, I'll probably be all over the board here with this question, but I'm going to try to put it in some order. I'm going to talk about sidewalk replacement program. Because I heard you've completed 121 requests through January of 21. Still got 201 out there. No doubt that will snowball, I guess, as the years go on. So I just, number one, wanted to know if we could put a little bit more money in that bucket for the sidewalk program. And then also, because I was on 311 requesting a sidewalk, I guess a petition request. And the questions that they ask are, is it in front of your property? Is it damaged by a tree? Blah, blah, blah. But wouldn't the city look at the worst sidewalk? I think it has to be like 4 or 6 inches above the ground. I mean, sometimes people, if they see 2 inches, they think the sidewalks need replaced, and that's just not going to happen in reality, I would think. So I guess the second question in regards to the sidewalk is, could you put another question on that 311 just to say, how bad is your sidewalk? Like, is it whatever the minimum requirement is for the city to go out and look at it? It's got to be what, 4 inches above or 6 inches above? And yeah, just wanted to know if more money could be placed into that bucket. You don't have to answer that right now.
Helen, I'll take a stab at that.
Okay, that's fine.
Go ahead, Chris.
Mr. Lombardo, we currently, as you said, when we presented this, we had 201 requests, so we probably do have a few more now. The current budget should allow us to take care of all these requests at least to the end of 21 with our current budget. Even if a sidewalk's off just an inch, that could cause an impediment to someone traveling. So last year we started with the horizontal cutting, and some people were very open to it because it saved the tree or it didn't have to excavate that. Now some were not so happy with that. Like, I thought I was getting a brand new piece of sidewalk. On this horizontal cutting would, if it's 2 inches or less, we can go in there with this machine, or a contractor can, saves us a lot of money. And it actually just takes off that edge, and it does allow for whether it's a wheelchair, bike, or person walking, to still maintain that sidewalk. If it's over 2 inches, there's not enough material there in the sidewalk to shave it, and then you are compromising the integrity of the slab. So
Oh, yeah.
we feel like now, I mean, unless there's 100 more that came in since we did this, which I kind of highly doubt, we will be real close to taking care of every request through the end of the year. And we've always taken these requests and put them in order. And throughout the year, we have looked at some really egregious ones where we've either, our budget allowed us for taking, not doing some and doing something else, because we get out there and, once we do an assessment, we may not do that request, as you said, or the cutting saves us money. So I think with the current budget, we'll be real close to addressing all the requests we have up till the end of 21.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then we'll go on to my second item was with the concrete streets.
Yes, sir.
Helen, do you know if, let's see, do you know if like a street like Patterson Avenue in Ward 2, which is half asphalt and half concrete, or maybe 1/4 concrete, do you know if something like that would be replaced, or are you just looking at the concrete street itself and trying to patch that? Because I know a concrete street would be a different animal if it's a, full-blown project and dig up with new curbs, right?
Defer to Mr. Luddle again.
So
Okay.
concrete streets engineering, they are going to do about a $1.4 million project this year. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7, 8 streets, which is about 1.5 miles of concrete that they're going to take on. Patterson is not one of those segments, Councilman. But what we will do, we're going to look at Patterson, and most of this money that we're putting in, this $1 million+ is more of a patch and match. So we go in and replace the 3 worst slabs and have them dialed together and replace that concrete. It's not a full improvement. One thing on Patterson that we're going to look at, or maybe some other streets, as you know, a concrete street is poured with the curb. It's all vertical, so it's one pour. It's the curb, it rolls down, it's the street. We have talked, engineering has looked at this, and with Jim Hall, possibly saw cutting, what we call that gutter. So once the curb rolls down, take about 18 inches. If we could saw cut that out, could we hog out that part of the road and do asphalt? Okay, that's something that we're going to look at. I'm not saying for sure that we are going to do it this year, but how can we maximize these dollars to, because like you said, it's concrete, it's asphalt, concrete, asphalt again. Why did they do that? I can't honestly say why they did that, but that's one of the things we're going to look at this year. And we are going to do a concrete program. I promise all of you that we are going to do some concrete streets, and hopefully a little bit in every ward.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, going to the Beltway project, are we managing this at all? Or is it, managed by ODOT just with the city contribution?
This is all ODOT.
Okay. So is there a reason why the 45 million is reflected in the budget? I guess that's what kind of threw me off. Sorry, not 45.
It is, yeah, it's 45 million. We did show it last year as well, and we did have a little bit of a higher contribution. So to be consistent, we showed it again this year, but it is 100%, 99.99% ODOT.
Okay, thank you. For the residents at Good Park, what's the timeline for the residential construction? Are we doing it in tandem with that?
I believe they are handling the public improvements on this.
Yeah, I
with
think
a
there's
partnership with
there's
us.
basically 3 phases. The first phase, I think, is the townhomes that Alpha Phi Alpha will be managing, developing those. I mean, this what's in the budget is all your roadway and utilities and everything, and then they will come in, build the townhomes, and then there's, I think, the kind of the or the just the basic houses are a later phase. So down towards more of the golf course, those will be, I don't think Alpha Phi Alpha is developing those. Those will be separate builders that can come in and build houses. But start this year, so you'll probably start seeing houses maybe towards the end of the year, I would say. And then it'll go from there.
Thanks. I guess what I'm getting at, and that's helpful, is, I believe we're paying for this with TIF. And so I worry that if it's, I know the project has been stuck a little bit with the financing for a little while. And so, if we're not sure that all three phases are going to happen in quick succession, is that going to come back to us in terms of costs?
No. They're moving forward with the public improvements, and TIF actually won't because of tax abatement.
Yeah, that's correct. The tax abatement will apply to the first 15 years of this. So the TIF is not a giant component of it. I think part of what's unique on this one is that they are putting assessments on the property equal to a portion of what would have been the tax abatement to fund the public improvements.
Okay.
So the residents are going to kind of get like a half a tax abatement or something along those lines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going then to the concrete street repair, going to some of the same questions as Mr. Lombardo. Wendling Drive is the worst street with concrete, arguably, in Ward 8. Is that on this list for this year?
I would have to check with Jim Hall, but we can get back to you.
Sure, thank you. And if it's not, I would encourage if we could find some way of doing something, because there's a kind of a streak that runs down the entirety really of the block that compromises most of the slabs. So I really, I think that's something I hear from almost all of the residents on that street.
Absolutely. Okay.
With regard to Smith Road, I know that the portion that we're talking about is west of San Juan Road, the kind of county side. And I know that we're getting ready to do resurfacing through AMETs of the eastern side, and we've talked about this a couple of times, but I know that, the quality of the drainage, the concrete drainage on either side obviously has deteriorated significantly. And obviously there's still concerns about the traffic. So, just kind of want to offer the comment that potentially if we can look at doing some design work on that side of Smith in advance of 2023, I think it would be helpful so that we're not, just doing purely the resurfacing next year, that we're dealing with some of these continuing problems.
Okay,
And that was all of the questions that I had.
thank you. Nancy Holland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think just one more concrete street question. I just want to make sure I understand. So Bellow Wood has its own separate provision. And is that because it is a full replacement?
That is correct.
Okay.
Full improvement. Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood that. And I guess just in a general way, it's my understanding that these concrete streets are really tough to deal with. Is it our policy or our general desire going forward to not create concrete streets? Is that where we are with this?
I would not say that because, recently we redid Roaming Road and that was driven by the Amazon project, but we are going to put more emphasis on preventative maintenance, which, as we, look outside right now, you have snow and ice. and it's going to melt and it gets in the cracks and then it freezes and thaws, and then you have a problem. Then you have the slabs that are uneven. Where if we do more preventative maintenance, i.e. Roaming Road, which we plan to do, but these streets like Councilman Malik just mentioned, it's too far gone for that. Okay, so the right application, yes, we could go back to concrete streets if it has the right application. But traditionally, it's been, if we take it out, we'll put back asphalt. But a lot of the money in the resurfacing for this year, not a lot, but there's going to be a big chunk. We've paved over 200 miles since IT4. Okay, we're going to have to address that. So we're going to put about, I think it's $400,000 or $500,000 just in crack sealing in other communities. And we've been, so we need to seal these up, keep that water out of there and preserve the life of these roads. Okay, there's no use doing this if we don't do the right preventive maintenance on these streets.
Got to take care of our investment.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Luddle. One other completely unrelated question. The Merriman Valley traffic study, I would assume that the effort will be made to tie this in and coordinate it with the Valley Master Plan provisions. Accurate?
I believe you're correct. Yes.
Okay.
I was
All
on
right.
mute. I apologize. Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, well, then, assuming no more questions, reference the resurfacing piece, we'll go ahead into water and sewer.
So I'm going to stop share and I'm going to invite Jenny Hanna to share her screen for the sewer piece.
Okay, we'll go all the way through to water plant, and then we'll ask questions right then. If there's any questions, I should say.
Good afternoon. I'm Jenny Hanna, Engineering Bureau Environmental Division Manager, and I'll be presenting the sewer projects this afternoon. We are starting on page 24 of the budget under the combined sewer overflow projects. The first, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I apologize. 1 second. We're
Okay.
a little off, but okay. Page 24 under combined sewer. Okay,
Yep.
go ahead.
So first project on the list, we've moved up from page 30. We've moved it to the Cso section because this parking lot was part of the land acquisition agreement for the construction of the wetland under the Middlebury Cso RAC 57 project. As part of that agreement, the city agreed to improve the parking lot at Case Avenue and West Market Street for use by the Battered Women's Shelter. We acquired their parking lot and constructed the wetland where they parked previously.
Okay, thank you. If we could just take a time out here real quick. So it's not page, at least on mine, it's page 29.
I'm sorry.
Case
29.
Avenue parking lot of $708,300.
Yes.
Okay, so that's been moved to the CSO piece, right?
Right. Yes.
Therefore impacting the budget on that's moved to CSO. Okay, thank you. And we don't have dollar amounts for all of these. So, okay. Okay, maybe we might want to go page by page or something, because this could be a little confusing if it's gonna, let's keep on trying through this. Okay.
Okay. I will reference the pages when we change them so that you can refer to that.
Thank you.
So resuming with the list as it's shown, the CMOM 5-year cycle project is implementation of the capacity management operation and maintenance program for cleaning and inspection of the combined and sanitary sewer system every 5 years, which is required by the consent decree. And it identifies the need for sewer rehab projects based on the conditions observed. We are in year 3 of the 3rd cycle of that program. The CSO Program Management Team project funds the program management services necessary for the Akron Waterways Renewed program. And then we're moving to page 25. The Cssf Disinfection Feasibility Study is a study to determine the feasibility of adding disinfection to the existing Cuyahoga Street storage facility basin to improve water quality. The Cuyahoga Street Storage Facility Rehabilitation Project made repairs and improvements to the existing CSSF storage basin, which was the first basin constructed in our sewer system. The project also includes some stream restoration at the outfall. The Duane Green project, CSO Rack 3, is the construction of green infrastructure at 3 sites in East Akron to control combined sewer overflows. The project construction is complete, so these costs are for project closeout. The Kelly Conveyance CSO Rack 3 project upsized the Rack 3 overflow pipe to control combined sewer overflows to 0 in the typical year. The project construction is complete, so these costs are for construction closeout. The Lower NSI lining project is for design and construction of cured in place pipe lining to line the lower section of the north side interceptor sewer along Peck Road from Main Street to Little Cuyahoga River. The Memorial Conveyance project will increase the size of the Rack 26 underflow project to control and eliminate combined sewer overflows to zero in the typical year. The North Side Interceptor Tunnel will design a CSO storage tunnel to capture CSOs from the racks 32, 33, 34, and 35 drainage areas. The Ohio Canal Interceptor Tunnel, designed and constructed, our first tunnel project. The construction is complete, so these costs are for project closeout. The Euler Conveyance Project, CSO Rack 27 and 29, upsize the Rack 27 and 29 underflow pipes to eliminate overflows in the typical year. The project construction is complete, so these costs are for project closeout. So we're moving to page 26 of the budget. Oh,
Okay,
actually,
I'm gonna
actually,
stop there. I'm gonna stop
okay.
right there
okay.
because we don't have numbers on here, but I'm gonna ask if there's any questions, as I mentioned before the sanitary sewers, what we're gonna do is ask if there's any questions or anything from anyone. So is there any questions? And plus we're gonna have to adjust the combines, the 29,748,383 and add in the 708,000 from Case Avenue so that overall CSO is reflected. Do you have that in front of you possibly? I think that's probably a no. So, okay, so we'll make sure that that's reflected in the budget adjustment. I see Mr. Malik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Hannah. 2 questions. First, on the OSIT, I understand that it's a very expensive project, but can you kind of do $10 million is a significant amount of money. What are these closeout costs?
They're just the costs to finish up the project to pay any retainage. I mean, typically the contractor is retaining about 3% of the construction costs till the end of the guarantee period. So, you know, on a large project like OSIT, 3% is quite a large amount.
Okay. So all the construction is complete. It's just kind of administrative contractual obligations.
Yeah, pretty much on OSIT, everything's done, Councilman. we did add a few things that they wrapped up as of just this past week, some fencing and that type of thing, but the contractor's off site and the project's working fantastic. So yes, everything's done.
Great, thank you. And the second one is more of a general question, and we may not have the information immediately available, but I know we've talked about how we're largely through the completion of most of the consent decree projects. I think it would be helpful to get a sense of where we are, in terms of financially through the cost of the project. So what the projected cost of the projects in future years, this year and going forward, is estimated to be. It would be really helpful to have that information.
Sure. Obviously, we're in the middle of our third amendment. And this north side tunnel that Ms. Hannah was talking about, we have proposed that we will have the same environmental benefit with a lot smaller tunnel, which is going to save millions and millions of dollars. So we're still waiting on their approval. And then the last thing that we're talking about in this amendment is the treatment facility at the end of this OSIT project that just finished up. So we've been in negotiation. I don't want to say weekly meetings with the EPA, but it seems like it's been going on for over a year, and we're really hoping for an answer here anytime soon. So once we get those answers from them, we can present to you. I'll have Pat Selman present and Jenny present where we're at. But so far, and you were down at the BioSep. Thank you for coming. That was a very successful project. That was part of the amendment, and we did have a considerable amount of savings in that project. So we can give you an update. It just may be a couple months, to be honest with you.
Sure. Yeah, I think when we have more clarity on that amendment, I think that'd be very helpful.
Sure.
And like you said, the BioSep project down there at the treatment facility is really impressive. The Headworks project that is reflected here that's getting underway, another really impressive project, and things that we can brag about the the really state-of-the-art nature of the work being done down there. But just wanted to get a sense on the financial aspect, and I understand that's a little bit up in the air, but maybe if we could get a sense of what it would be without further amendment and what it might be under the projection, even just basic numbers, I'd appreciate that.
I can, but I don't even want to talk about it without it. We're really striving to get it done. So
I
we
understand that.
can get you those numbers.
Thank you, sir.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, Ms. Anna?
Okay. One more project that we're moving to the CSO section that I didn't mention before you took questions was the last one listed on this slide, the WRF BioSept project, which Mr. Lettle mentioned. It was for the design and construction of a new biological chemically enhanced primary treatment system at the water reclamation facility to treat wet weather flows in excess of 220 MGD. The project was completed at the end of last year. This year, there will be project closeout costs, and also we are required under our consent decree amendment to complete a demonstration study that looks at the performance of the system for 20 wet weather events over the next 2 years.
So that's $4,600,000.
Yes, I believe the
It's-
demonstration study costs over $1 million.
Well, I'm just trying to, just in my own mind here, make sure that I'm square on this thing. So it's on page 30, and I'm
Yes.
seeing $4,600,000, which will then be deducted. And I know this is all going to be done for us, but regardless, it's going to have to be added to the CSO project, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is the last change in section that we have. So we are sticking with the draft budget that you have moving forward.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry,
Next-
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Malik.
Just a question on that. Is there a reason why the Headworks project is remaining within the WRF section and not within the CSO section?
Yeah, the WRF BioStop project was listed in the consent decree as a requirement to be completed. Under the consent decree, the Headworks is not. We are upgrading that facility to accept more flow, but is not a requirement of the consent decree.
Okay, I guess just so I understand, it is actually necessary to complete the requirements of the consent decree, even if it's not specifically listed. Is that correct?
Oh, the Headworks?
Yeah.
No, it is not required under the consent decree. However, with the increased flows and the age of the equipment in the Headworks facility, we do need to upgrade that. It is necessary, but it's not a requirement of the consent decree.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I assume we're going to sanitary sewers.
Yes, page 26. First project is the Britton Road Pump Station #2 reconstruction. This is complete reconstruction of the existing sanitary sewer pump station that was built in 1973. The second project is flow monitoring and rain gauges. This project continues the operation and maintenance of the city's rain gauges and flow meters that collect data that's used in modeling and operation of the sewer system. Next project is the Force Main Replacement 2021 project. This will reconstruct deteriorated force mains at the existing Fairhill, Cromwell, Fairlawn, Knowles, and Clearfield pump stations. The Hawkins District Sewer Improvements project will repair defects in the sanitary sewers in the Hawkins Sewer District that result in inflow and infiltration in that sewer system. The miscellaneous collection system improvements includes commercial sewer lateral replacement and vehicle and equipment replacement at the water reclamation facility and for sewer maintenance. The miscellaneous sanitary sewer emergency improvements project is for the design and construction and reconstruction of various sanitary sewer emergency improvements that occur throughout the city. The Quaker Ridge Pump Station reconstruction project was for construction of a new pump station and force main. The project construction is complete, so the costs shown here are for construction closeout costs. The Sand Run Road Slope project is a study of the slope failure that appears to be occurring along the east side of Sand Run near Sand Run Parkway. It has impacted the supports for an adjacent sanitary sewer.
Can we go back one slide, please?
Mhm.
Just 1 second. Okay, you can go back to the other one. I just trying to keep up. Thank you.
Moving to page 27 of the budget. Hold on 1 second. Oh, sorry. The next 8 projects that appear in the budget are a series of sanitary sewer reconstruction projects that are undertaken each year from defects that are identified from the CMOM program. And it concludes rehabilitating sanitary and combined sewer and manholes by completing point repairs, replacement, or reconstruction by lining or sprayed in place lining. So there's a series of 8 projects that we've totaled up here that will be undertaken in design and construction.
Is that reflected here somewhere?
Of the total in the budget? No, the total isn't given. It's the next 8 projects in 27 and 28 that all add up to the $9,134,000. So it's
500,000, you're saying? I'm sorry,
$9,134,000. So it goes from page 27, all of those SSR projects, and then the top 2 projects on page 28.
So all that together equals 20. I'm
It's
sorry, how much?
No, it's $9,134,000.
Top 2 over here. Okay, so we're gonna, let's go ahead and go through each and every one of these, please.
Okay. Sanitary Reconstruction 2018 large diameter lining project will rehabilitate sanitary and combined sewers and manholes in the sewer system. This project costs included our closeout costs. The Sanitary Sewer Reconstruction 2018 small diameter lining project has the same scope. It's also closeout costs for that project. The Sanitary Sewer Reconstruction 2019 large diameter lining project, also repairs in the sanitary and combined sewer system. The Sanitary Sewer Reconstruction 2021 large diameter lining project. This project will be, the design will be finished and will be bid this year. The Sanitary Sewer Reconstruction 2021 small diameter lining project will also, design will be complete and the project is scheduled to be bid in 2022. That moves us to page 28.
I think you missed it.
Did I miss one?
The 4,500,000, did you talk about that one? The 2021 large and then the 2021 small?
Yeah, I think I just mentioned those. Those are both in design, finishing up design, and they're scheduled to be bid this year.
So they're both under design. Okay.
Yeah. And
All right.
then moving to page 28, the Sanitary Sewer Reconstruction 2023 lining. We're beginning the design of that project and we'll be applying for OPWC funding.
Okay.
Sanitary Sewer Reconstruction 2024 lining. At the end of this year, we will also be starting the design of that project in preparation for submitting OPWC application in next year in 2023.
Okay. Very good. Now we're on the Silva.
Sevilla trunk sewer reconstruction. The Sevilla trunk sewer was reconstructed and the mud run emergency force main was replaced. The construction has been completed and the costs included in this budget are closeout costs. Shoreline pump station improvements. Improvements are proposed to the existing pump station to accommodate greater volume and relieve the downstream pump station to support new residential development.
Okay.
The Zurich Road Pump Station project. This was a complete replacement of the Zurich Pump Station. Construction is complete, so these costs are for closeout costs. Springfield Lake trunk sewer lining is the reconstruction of approximately 3,500 feet of 33-inch diameter sanitary sewer using the CIPP lining process. And the Talmadge master meter facility reconstruction is reconstruction of the existing master meter to relocate it above ground to allow for safer access by city personnel.
Talmadge master meter. Okay.
And then moving to page 29.
Okay, let's go ahead and see if we have any questions from the last few pages here for the sanitary sewer piece, right? Yeah, any
Correct.
questions? I see Mr. Malik's hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going to the San Juan Road slope, have we been in communication with Summit Metro Parks regarding this, given that they're also doing a lot of work around erosion in this area?
Yes, we have. We've actually done some soil borings out there. So, we've coordinated those with them. So yet they are aware of our investigation and we'll be coordinating improvements with them.
Okay. In terms of the sanitary sewer lining projects, I guess it would be helpful, the 9.1 million, I guess it would be helpful to see how that's compared to like the last several years total lining projects, if that would be possible for that to be shared.
Okay.
And then I think the shoreline pump station, is that where you mentioned part of it was upgrading it to accommodate greater volume for development? Where is that?
Yes. That is off of Carnegie Avenue near Nesmith Lake. A proposed development at the former school site there.
Which school site is that?
I think it's the Ginther school site.
Correct.
Yeah. It is.
That's right.
Okay. And then final question, the Zurich Road pump station, does this include money for fencing and landscaping to deal with the aesthetics for the neighbors? It's been a long project for them, and I just want to make sure that we're able to fully accommodate their concerns living next door.
Yes, I believe it did include some landscaping around it.
Okay, if we could make sure specifically on the fencing, because I know that's been one of the points of contention, and as well as the landscaping.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Tara Mosley.
I have two questions. On the Britton Road pump station number 2, are we talking about the one at the reservoir?
This one is located along, let me look at the location.
Just north of the McDonald's, north of Talmadge Avenue.
Okay, so we're going further up. Okay, I know you're talking about. Okay, are any of these projects carryovers?
Yes, some of them are. Definitely the Britton Road was carryover. A number of them are carryovers when I
Yeah,
last year.
I thought that's why the Britton Road one sounded familiar. If we could, I think it would help. At least it would help me. I don't know if the other council members would like to see this. If we could put, there was a time when they would always put carryover, and it may be on some of them that we note their carryover items. I think it would be very helpful.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Very good. Are we going into water?
Yes, so we're on page 29 of the budget, and we're starting stormwater systems projects. First one is the Brewster Creek NIPSIS project, which is a carryover. It's to prepare a non-point source implementation strategy plan for the Brewster Creek watershed that has been experiencing concerns such as erosion. The plan is needed to apply for Clean Water Act grants to design and construct some repairs in that watershed. The flood prone, we moved the Case Avenue parking lot, so that we'll skip over that one. The flood prone property acquisition FEMA. This is a FEMA grant to purchase identified properties in South Akron that experience repetitive flooding. The miscellaneous storm sewer improvements project is to design and construct or reconstruct various storm sewer improvements throughout the city's storm sewer system. There are not specific projects allocated under this project.
Okay.
And then moving to water reclamation facility projects. One thing to note, we're kind of highlighting some awards that the facility has won or been nominated for. So we've had some major projects going on at the facility, and they've still managed to perform well down there and achieve some awards in the past 2 years, despite all the construction activity. The facility was the recipient of the 2020 NACWA Silver Award for performance, and this year is nominated for a 2021 NACWA Gold Award for performance. And also the 2021 OWEA Laboratory Analyst Award was awarded to Tom Zoccolo at the Water Reclamation Facility. So getting into the projects, the activated electrical improvements project will install backup power for the high-speed turbo blowers at WRF that are used in the secondary treatment process there. The annual plant renewal project will complete miscellaneous improvements at WRF and also in the collection facility, system facilities, including storage basins and pump stations, and at the renewable energy facility. And the WRF process control system improvements project will replace the WRF process control system at the plant. And then moving to page 30, we'll skip over the WRF biostep because we moved that to the CSO category. So last project we have is the WRF Headworks Improvements project, which is a design and upgrade to the Headworks facility, including screening and grit removal to provide 280 MGD capacity.
Okay. Very good. Any questions or comments in reference to the stormwater or water reclamation? Questions or comments? Okay, very good. Congratulations on all the awards. That's outstanding. Our folks do a great job and we certainly appreciate it and don't say thank you enough. So we do appreciate all the hard work, and it's great to see that we're getting recognized for that creativity and all that you guys do. So where to now?
Going to switch to water projects and Mr. Bernowski, and he will upload his PowerPoint presentation shortly. There it is. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Jeff Bernowski. I'm the Akron Water Supply Bureau Manager, and appreciate the opportunity this afternoon to tell you about the capital projects for 2022 in drinking water supply. So on your spreadsheet, it would be page 20, and we'll start with water distribution. Will be our first topic. And the first project on the list is the Archwood Pumping Station improvements. This for design only, and this is updating a pump station and adding a second pump with full electrical upgrades and replacing doors, roofs, and generators. The design will be in 22 with the construction in 23. The next project is the Britton Road Reservoir Replacement, and this one is contingent on obtaining funding of some sort, hopefully from the infrastructure funds and such. This is one that we continue to carry over. It's a very important project for us, $20 million project that provides a significant amount of storage throughout our distribution system located at the intersection of Britton and Newton. The third project on the list is the demolition of some outdated facilities. These are water storage facilities, our Stockbridge Standpipe and Polk Reservoir. These are ones that have been disconnected from our distribution system and sit idle at this time. So there's significant value to us to eliminate this infrastructure and take advantage of the opportunities the land might provide. Next on the list is our metering AMI system, our meters project. This project is looking to install 85,000 water meters. It's an ongoing project. As of right now, we are updating our customer information system, and it's been in a slight delay due to the supply of meters. So we've heard a lot about the semiconductor issues and the inability to get chips. Well, these advanced meters that we're installing in the distribution system are also being subjected to a lot of the delays and such. So we're still real confident that we should be able to complete this by the end of 23 and initiate some of the meter changeouts here in the latter part of 22, pending the supply of the meters. Next on the list is a force main rehabilitation project. There are 3 large force mains that go from the Akron water plant in Portage County, just north of Kent, into the city of Akron. And there's portions of that main that are original 1912 and 1920 mains. They're obviously very critical to our operations. And this just gives you an idea. I mean, as we speak right now, 22% of our water mains are over 100 years old. In 10 years, they'll be closer to 35%. So, you know, we're looking at the most critical of those. And this one here is looking at the rehabilitation of those force mains. Next on the list is the Home Avenue Utility Bridge project of the Little Cuyahoga River. This is one where we're looking to put in a connection to provide redundancy at this bridge, and also support 2 large communication fiber optic cables as well. The next on the list is the lead service line replacement program. We're very happy to obtain a number of different grant fundings, either through the ARPA and the state, OPWC, the Water Supply Revolving Loan Fund, and some local ARPA as well. And so that money is going to be specifically dedicated to replacing lead service lines throughout our distribution system. As we speak right now, there's approximately 2,900 lead services that serve active water accounts. And so this money will be used to reduce that number. Next on the list is the North Summit Supply Booster Station replacement. This is a pump station that serves a number of customers in our Northern Summit service area. This is a $1.5 million project and will really help in the efficiency and the capacity of those pumps to supply those customers, including one of our largest retail customers in the system, the Coca-Cola Bottling Company on North Highland Road. This here is a study to look at the continued feasibility of elevated tanks and standpipes throughout our distribution system. Technology has advanced significantly, where the old way of doing it, holding water in elevated tanks and in large standpipes, may not necessarily be the best option, with the ability to use like these booster pump stations that provide continuous supplies of pressure and flow, rather than simply relying on the elevated storage of a tank. No different than the previous project I just talked about, the North Summit Supply Booster Station. So this project's going to look at that and look at, on a case-by-case basis, the most appropriate way to handle these higher pressure districts that we have throughout our distribution system. About 40% of our customer base is either being served on a booster station or on one of these elevated tanks. The next project are looking at some improvements to the Quail Avenue pump station. This is a replacement of the motor control center, and was one of a multitude of projects called out in our asset management plan required by Ohio EPA. Next project is the University of Akron 30-inch water main rehabilitation. This here was a funded project by ARPA to replace a number of critical valves that exist associated with a 30-inch water main that cuts right through the center of campus. Line stops installed, valves replaced, and a lot of transfer of services. And the reason that project has been done, because we're looking at this next project, the University of Akron Water Main Rehabilitation Project, which in the next couple of years, into 2023, the University of Akron is looking at resurfacing and replacing a lot of these old brick pavers that you see on campus. And we also have that, not only the valves, but the main line of that. So that previous project was the valves, but that was in preparation for a main line replacement. And that's what you see here, this $1.9 million project. So we'd like to get that main line done. This is a 100-year-old plus project or water main. And so we'd like to get that done before a lot of these surface improvements are made. and quite frankly, that's a big decision maker in mains that we do. We're always looking at, is there any type of pavement restoration, resurfacing? What other things are planned, and could they somehow be done ahead of time so that we don't have failing water mains under brand new pavement or brand new infrastructure above. This next project is a reoccurring purchase request for motor vehicles, equipment, machinery for our water distribution division. And then, as I've mentioned, the next two items, the 2022 water main replacement program and the 2023 water main replacement program, is looking at those mains that meet a number of different criteria. The number of main breaks that happen, where resurfacing is occurring, where there are lead services in abundance. And so you can see on this graph the number of this table here, the number of lead services in the water mains that are occurring or proposed to be replaced as part of this project. Now, this 2023 is going to see some funding through ARPA. And then we do our best to try to match funds with OPWC dollars to extend it even further. So I must say that I'm really proud of the work that my staff does to chase down other funding opportunities to leverage, certain dollars against other dollars to make it go that much farther.
Good. Thank you,
And
Jeff.
then-
We're going to stop for a second and ask if there's any questions. Or did you want to, is that another one?
No, that's all water main replacement.
Water main
and
22, yeah.
Water distribution, yeah.
Good, thank you. Yeah, for that piece, open up for questions. I have a couple myself. Where's Polk Reservoir at?
Polk is at the intersection of Polk and 9th. It's the southwest of Summit Lake.
Good, thank you.
It's actually an underground reservoir. So it's one that, and there's and maybe Chris can help me out here. Next door to the Polk Reservoir is a school board facility of some sort there on Polk that someone may be familiar with. But it's an old underground reservoir. That's not necessarily an elevated tank, but it's a below ground that's sat idle for several decades now.
Very good, perfect. Where, so you'd mentioned before we got 2,900 services left under the lead abatement or lead service project, 2,900. What percentage are we at? And with this is it's a nice investment. Love to see it, $10 million. Where would we be after you suspect? Approximately, well, obviously, approximately.
Yeah. I mean, each of these lead services are costing us anywhere from, it depends, one, if we do it with our own staff, which I must say, I'm really proud of my staff. We've done a lot of this work with internal staff, but we also go outside. So internally, we're able to do it anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000. Externally, it gets more expensive, $5,000 to $6,000. But, if you look at $10 million, and you divide that, say, by 5,000 a service, you're able to get with 200 in that case. So it doesn't go all that far, relatively speaking, just because it's so, I mean, it's just so expensive. And there's so many other different things involved as well. There's a lot of discussion now with private side galvanized. That's part of this work as well. So the money doesn't go nearly as far as it used to, but I mean, we're really striving hard over the next several years to try to get all of the lead out of Akron. We are one of the furthest advanced communities of our size, of our age. So we really think it's a reasonable goal to accomplish. We guesstimate that at one point in our history, there could have been as many as 50,000 lead services. And with the effort of the water department, we've been able to lower that now down to less than 3,000. So putting a lot of plans together to really, get the lead out in Akron, Ohio.
That's outstanding. It really is. And I also noticed somewhere in here that I'm looking for, I can't seem to locate it, but the force, it might be the force main, it was primarily out there because I know we had worked on this project like in the late 80s, early 90s, the water main replacement to the reservoir itself. And I thought at that time we had replaced everything pretty much from all the way up north, Geauga County, or I should say in Kent, all the way back into Reservoir. So apparently we did not.
Yeah, there's just a small section, right around a mile or a little less than a mile, that has yet to be replaced. At that time, there was condition assessment done to look at, okay, is this a value to replace it at this time or continue to wait? So that's generally what we're going to look at as well here, as we're looking at the condition of this force main to make sure it remains, in satisfactory condition. But, the fact that it is now pushing 100 years old, now all of a sudden it's become, quite critical to, and a lot of the criteria continues to evolve, and a lot of the data and information start to continue to evolve as to like the service life of these mains. And so, with the condition, with the material makeup, with the break history, it's very likely that the need for these mains will be replaced, but this project is to confirm such a case.
Good. Very good. Thanks, Jeff, on that. I'll just go in the order that I see everyone. I see Shamus Malik, your hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Banowski. Always appreciate the level of detail and that you bring. First, going to the facilities demolition, you kind of talked about the potential value of these properties. What do you see as the value? Do you look at this as selling some of the land, or what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, we periodically get inquiries for properties to, look at development opportunities if it's the case. From a water perspective, this is infrastructure that, requires security, requires our attention, requires maintenance, simply to ensure that it's not a blight to the neighborhoods and such. And so, through the demolition, we feel that it can eliminate, a lot of that responsibility, and then it opens itself up for opportunity, within, not within the responsibility of water, but in other divisions to say, hey, can this land be used for a different purpose, and such. So that's all. I don't know of any plans whatsoever for either of these properties, but it's one that, could open itself up inside the city for different uses.
Okay, thank you. For the lead service replacement, very much, echo Councilman Fusco's comments about, the importance of this and the great work that's been done. I know it's been a priority of Mayor Horrigan. The funding, I thought that the local ARPA money was part of this, but it doesn't appear to be reflected in this line item.
Let me go to that.
ARPA money in there.
It says 5 million of state ARPA money and then 2.5 of OPWC and 2.5 of it.
There's another line item in there for 10 million.
That's the water main replacement?
Yes.
Okay, but the lead replacement, the lead service replacement is not the local ARPA. Is that right?
How about what page is this?
21.
21?
Yes, the very top.
Yeah.
Just says ARPA-state under that piece, and then the bottom piece just says ARPA. So I understand the question. Maybe you guys can get back.
We don't need an answer right now.
Yeah, and this is one of those. this is one of those instances we were also waiting to see what the infrastructure bill was going to look like too.
And there I can segue, Ms. Tomic, to my comment, which is that great to hear that there'll be a 1 to 2 page document. Would like to if it's possible, share some of that information in the next week or two while we're doing the, that would be great. Because particularly, I think we all see, when we see what happened on Market Street this past week, when we see other places, clearly there's the need to invest in our water mains. At the same time, I think we want to free up as much of that ARPA money to deal with, systemic issues that were uncovered by the pandemic. So
understood. Yep.
Thank you. That's everything that I had for this piece.
Sharon Connor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bronowski, I want to say I'm really pleased to see the Reservoir Park project on the list there. I know it's extensive and costly, but it's such a rich part of the history, certainly of Ward 10. And I would love to pursue some kind of really out of the box thinking when that comes to be, of maybe having it open so people could see it, or somebody go in with a camera when it's drained, because there's always a lot of mystery and speculation on what really happens in the big grassy mound on the hill. So I would love to pursue some of that with you at some point.
Would be glad to do that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon Connor. Very good. We'll go ahead and I just I certainly share Mr. Malik's thoughts, reference ARPA funds, but I'm extremely glad to see the commitment for the water main replacement program. That is, we are painfully behind on that, but I don't think we're in the boat by ourselves. There's cities all across the country, and we've seen underinvestment, and it's great to see, because we had all of these unfunded mandates come down the especially, in reference to the CSOs and such. And, this is, so we, you commit funds to the CSO piece, but then again, our water mains, we used to receive millions of dollars from the feds, which we no longer see that. So, but I'm sure we're going to discuss that even further down the road. So, Mr. Bronowski, water plant.
Okay, yeah, we're going to talk about the water plant. First project on the list is about a $1.1 million caustic soda feed system replacement. Caustic soda, sodium hydroxide, is a critical chemical for the purposes of lead and copper, to ensure that we have a pH really close to 7. It's to ensure that the water is not corrosive to any metals within our distribution system. So this facility is now about 20 years old, and it's time to upgrade it with the latest and greatest in chemical feed pumps, transfer pumps, metering, and a whole host of automation and control. Next on the list is a filter building facility rehabilitation. One of the most critical treatment processes we have to ensure drinking water quality is our filter building, and it is 100 years old, greater than that, 19 portions of it installed in 1913 to 1915. So, as of right now, we're doing our best to keep this facility operating. And this project here is to look at the structural integrity of the facility and rehabilitation in areas like you see in the image here, where we have exposed rebar and such. It still continues to perform outstanding. We continue to have wonderful filter turbidities, which is a measurement of the performance of this filter building. And but we're at the point now that we have to look at a lot of the structural integrity of it through this project. Next is, and this is the filter building that you see in the image here, this L-shaped building, and it's in need of a roof. The roof is over 30 years old, and it needs improved ventilation. There's these vents that run across the roof, shingles that are 30 years old, the downspouts, the fascias. And so this project here is to replace the roof for that facility. Fluoride and hydrochloric acid system. We're looking at designing this. A lot of these final chemical feeds, like I mentioned, the caustic soda, fluoride, hydrochloric acid, sodium hypochlorite, all these are final chemical additions that all went in as part of a new building in the early 2000s. And a lot of them are starting to show their age and such. And so we're looking at, and because they're so critical, there is the, in some cases, like run to failure is used, but that cannot be used in any of these critical activities such as chemical feeds. So the fluoride addition is mandated by state law that Akron fluoridate the water, and the hydrochloric acid is a chemical used in the creation of chlorine dioxide at the water plant for oxidation and disinfection. The next is our high service pump station, ball valve, and these limit torque manual valve replacements. So this project here, each one of our high service pumps, and there's 6 of them that push water out of a large clear well into our distribution system, primarily to that Britton Road reservoir that we mentioned previously. But in order to do that, and to do that in a controlled fashion, where when we're pumping, we don't pump a whole host of air and we don't create a whole lot of water hammer that could damage the force mains. This project here is to look at these 1970s vintage ball valves. Next project on the list is an upgrade to our heating system, the HVAC system in our lab. This all went in. The lab was built in the early 90s, and this heating system, it was part of that. And there's been a lot of maintenance issues. And, it's not just people working in the cold, which, I understand, but it's really critical samples and analysts working on critical items that require temperature controlled facilities. And so the importance of upgrading this to the latest in HVAC is really a critical project. Locker room improvements. We have some outdated facilities, both in the women's locker room and the men's locker room. You can see the image here. This dates back into the 1950s. So we're looking at putting showers and improving those facilities. We're a 24/7 operation. Many times we have multiple shifts going on, people working doubles, and to have, facilities both for men and women at the water plant is important. We have a host of miscellaneous plant improvements, and we like to put these in for placeholders for a number of items that just aren't necessarily one large project, but when you bundle them together, and it's doors, it's windows, it's vaults, it's chemical feed lines, it's a lot of little smaller projects that we bundle into one. And then on the same with safety, safety is obviously very important at the water plant. We deal with very high voltage, 4,000 plus volts over at the water plant. We have, very chemicals that, are ones that we need to ensure that we protect our staff from. Flooding hazards, confined space hazards. So this line item here is to ensure that we meet all the requirements of OSHA. The next one is a process treatment update study. So, as we look towards the future of drinking water supply, you always, 10 years from now is today, in essence. Wendell Ledoux stated that, one of my predecessor many years ago. And it's very true. You always need to be looking 10 to 20 years out. Where is the industry growing? How is your plant preparing for new regulation? How is your plant preparing for the increase or inflows or decrease in flows? And so we're, as part of our asset management plan, we were looking at what are the long-term future treatment processes and alternate water supply options for the city of Akron. in light of new regulations, in light of demand, in light of global warming, all those different items. So this project here is one to look at the long-term planning initiative on that. We have some additional roof replacements. I think I skipped one, I'm sorry. Raw water intake valve replacement repair. So this is, we have a few sources from our primary reservoir, Lake Rockwell, where we can bring water in. The one is the newest of them. It's the one we use most of the time. Works really well, but we need a backup. And that's one of the older ones that it still exists, and it needs new valves to ensure its operability and its ability to be used in the event that the primary intake isn't usable. Some additional water plant roof replacements. There's, older flat roofs. Those are really difficult to maintain. And so we intend to replace this roof here with $121,000. Security in the watershed. In this case, this would be around the plant. It's looking at fencing and security, most especially around our entryway here. This is where, the majority of trucks, traffic, and plant vehicles enter and exit. And so we're looking at replacing some of this fence. A portion of it was damaged because of an accident that occurred by a motorist traveling along this route. And so, they replaced it at their cost, but it still needs some improvement. And then we have a placeholder here as well for some vehicles and equipment replacements for different water supply operations. And then finally on the water plant, we're looking at improving the water plant, the water that's supplied to the plant. So that would be a lot of processed water, backwash water, carrier water, drinking fountains, toilets, all of that water. And so that hasn't been looked at for many, many years. So this project here is to obtain an alternate source of water from a different main that goes out into distribution and really help in, optimizing a number of the processes and improving the water plant water supply. So I can stop there if you want, and then we can move on to watershed after that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Is there any questions or comments from anyone? Okay. I'm not seeing any, so go ahead and continue, please,
Okay.
Jeff. Thanks.
Very good. Yeah. So here's
Jeff, I did have a question. I
Yeah,
did
go ahead.
have one. I didn't write it down though. It just came to mind. I assume that I'm pretty confident, but I want to make sure you guys, we have a backup generator out there, right?
Yes.
I figured you had one, but just checking.
Right. Yes, and we have backup generation at the water plant, and we can run at full capacity as long as we continue to get diesel fuel. So when there was the big outage, I think it was 03, 04, throughout the northeastern part of the United States, the Akron water plant didn't miss a beat. We continued to pump where communities like Cleveland, for example, had a very critical situation. So yeah, it works excellent. It's tested on a regular basis. It's actually used quite frequently when we see storms coming. We're able to turn on the generators, run the plant on generator power, and allow the storm to roll through, and all those blips and the lights and such, that doesn't upset our treatment process whatsoever. So it's a very state-of-the-art generation process that we have.
Very good.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Councilman Fusco, last fall, we had a little, you get a weather alert and then there's a, chance of a tornado coming through like Streetsboro strong, you just start thinking. So I called Jeff, he goes, Chris, we're already switched over just in case. So they're way ahead of the game up there.
Yes, they are. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so finally, watershed. We'll discuss watershed. You can see this excellent image of Lake Rockwell Dam. That's that 1913 and 1915 construction, and it literally is an impoundment on the Cuyahoga River. So this here on the downstream end of the dam is the Cuyahoga River, and before this was constructed, it was simply the river that continued to travel up into Portage County And so this impoundment was built to create Lake Rockwell. And then off to your left here, you see an image of the intake pipe. So it's a great photo that was taken from the drone, a drone. So one of those reservoirs upstream in Geauga County is where we hold additional water, is East Branch. And, East Branch was constructed as a works project, a public works project as part of the WPA in the 1930s. And so it's in need of miscellaneous improvements and drainage improvements at the foot of the dam. So it's really important that you make sure water doesn't come up from the downstream end and start to compromise your earth and dam structures. And so this here is for that East Branch Dam in Geauga County. Next is looking at Lake Rockwell. We just saw an image from the air. You can see an image from the ground here. And also looking at the structural integrity of the dam, looking at some deterioration and spalling and it's kind of hard to see in this image, but you can see spalling on the wing walls and some spalling in certain areas. So we really got to ensure that we meet all the requirements of the ODNR and, not have a dam that could be compromised in any way. So this project is to look at that. Next is upstream, around Lake Reservoir, there's smaller dikes that exist to keep water from, leaving the reservoir and overtopping. So this here is looking at one of those dikes to ensure that water, when it's backed up from Lake Rockwell, it doesn't release to other points. And so they're called dikes. And this dike here is in need of being elevated. It's about 18 inches lower than its original elevation when it was put in. And so this project will put it back to the design standard when it was constructed. Mogador Reservoir is also responsibility of Akron Water. It's in Brimfield, Suffield Township, just east of Akron. And it was built for industrial water purposes, but now has been primarily used for recreation in that area. A lot of great fishing goes on, and walking trails and such at this location. But the issue we're having now, it was also put in as part of the WPA projects in the 30s, and it's also in need of looking at structural integrity and deterioration as well, as part of the ODNR requirements. So this project is to focus on that. And then additional spillway improvements. This is slight things like you see here on these handrails and walkways, the spalling of concrete and such. So this is to handle just throughout the year some quick improvements we can do just to protect the rebar underneath, because you start exposing rebar as the spalling starts to happen. And then the final line item we have here is for watershed property acquisition. We're always looking for opportune properties in the watershed that go up for sale for the purposes of drinking water protection. And so this line item just gives us the opportunity to react if indeed a property goes up and it's an acceptable purchase. This item gives us the opportunity to purchase those properties. So with that said, that's the conclusion of my items. Free for any more questions. Thank you for the opportunity, though.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there any questions or comments from anyone? I see Mr. Malik is got his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Part of the budget is what goes into it, right? The input. And with regard to the watershed, has there been any further discussion about, monetizing the watershed through conservation easements or other things like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's always discussions of opportunities where revenue can be obtained without raising rates to our customer base. So most especially those opportunities that provide a benefit to the watershed. So the purchasing of conservation easements, the applying of conservation easements, and other activities, leases that we work with farmers, leases that we have with people that make maple syrup, a whole host of different options. So yeah, those are always front and center as opportunities to not only protect the reservoirs and our drinking water supply, but also look at trying to minimize future rate increases.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Very good. I'd like to invite all of council to give me a call or send an email should you have further questions or comments or ideas, reference our budget. I believe this concludes our evaluation. I think. I'm pretty sure it does. Let's do that this week. Try to focus on that. Helen Tomic, I will be calling you as some have already talked to me about this presentation, and we'll go from there. But again, I invite anyone on council to email me, Helen Tomic, questions, comments as you look through it, and we'll go from there. Any other comments or anything from anyone? Helen Tomic, do you have anything?
So we do have a list of questions that were posed from different council members. We are looking at responding to those. My hope is to get those to you by the end of this week or the early part of next week. And then as we talked about Fire Station 12, and there are other cleanup items that we need to address via an amendment. So I hope to get that amended I'm looking at either the 31st or the 7th. But as you had indicated at the beginning of this meeting, this budget must be passed by February 14th.
Yes.
So we'll try to get as much information to you sooner rather than later to give you all the information you need to move forward on that.
Yeah, and the sooner the better. And like I said,
Understood.
and there's some questions I have in reference to some of the sort of stuff. I see two hands up. Linda Mobian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think she answered my question. The questions that we raised at the last meeting. She's going to try to get the information.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Mr. Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we've asked, and I know Ms. Tomic is going to work to give us clear lines of demarcation as far as what is tax funding, what is ARPA funding, if it's be it our dollars or state dollars. We want that clearly identified. What I want to know is, will the tool for us to trace this from Guidehouse be in place before we pass this budget so that we have a way of tracking all of this? We started this conversation with Guidehouse back in September, October, because this is a lot to track. And what I'd like to do is at some time, if we as council, if we could understand the metrics that we are using, to allocate these funds. And right now there's just that tool to track all this just isn't in place.
We're working on a ARPA dashboard. And I cannot address as to when that will be up. I'm not familiar with that, but it is a tool that we're working on.
Yes, ma'am. And I respect that, Ms. Tomic. I guess this is my thing. Knowing how serious this is and knowing that it's a requirement, it is a U.S. Treasury requirement that we have a tool in place to track and for citizen engagement, especially with the concerns that were expressed when the legislation was passed back in September. It would behoove us to have something in place that we could look at before we're asked to vote on this. Because this is February, January, December, November, October, September. That's 6 months. And we don't have anything in place. And we were told that we needed to have something in place before these dollars even came to us back in March of last year.
Well, Helen and I will talk about that, and we'll find out and get a timeline, because I agree that we do need that in place for not only council, but for the constituents throughout Akron.
Yes, sir. And it may be a tool that has to evolve, but we need to have something. I understand it may not be exactly what we want, but we need to have something. Because I almost feel like I'm at the in that commercial, I'm at the meeting. Well, we're on page 8. I don't have page 8. You know, I'm trying to find all the information. It's hard to track.
I felt like that earlier.
Okay, well, thank you, sir.
So I get it, man.
Okay.
No, I understand. Right? No, we will, and I'll work with Helen and the administration and try to get an answer for that, because that's fair. That's a fair question. Anything from anyone else? Yes,
Mr. Neal, can I just ask your request? To be honest, I'm a little confused. So can you put that in writing for me so I make sure that we address what your concerns are specifically? And
Sure.
then especially when you specified separating the different funding sources, I'm a little confused there as well. So if you can put that in writing, so like I said, we can make sure your concerns are addressed specifically rather than just me guessing what you're asking for.
I will send you the best ARPA best practice document that was sent to legislators across the country on these are the things that we need to have in place.
Okay, that's fair. And along with that, then your questions and concerns.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If everybody can please carbon copy me, appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Malik, I saw your hand up. No?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Okay. Anybody else for the good of the order? I appreciate getting through this. I appreciate everyone who presented to council throughout these last 2 sessions that we had. We have a lot more work ahead of us in terms of going over this document and preparing it for a vote. Hopefully soon. I see Jenny Hanna is still on board here. Thank you for your presentation, Jeff Bernowski. Both of you, outstanding job. Helen, thanks for all your work. I know they start this project, as many of us know, like in September, I think, or October. It's kind of throughout the year, I know.
Or June.
Yeah. So I know it's soon. It's and it's a long project, and things change as we go along. And I want to see better weather out there, but I kind of don't, because I'm afraid of what we're going to see on our streets, because we've been through that before too, where we had to add money to our resurfacing because of the freezing and thawing and such. So
and as we go through this process, we are constantly asking ourselves, what can we do to make this process better and easier for everyone? And in regards to Councilwoman Mosley's a comment, I do recall, if it's a carryover project or if it's a closeout, to note that. So I've already reached out to my staff and I said, next year we need to get better at doing that. So we are always learning based on these comments and trying to make those adjustments. So next year it's an easier process for all of us.
Thank you, Helen Tomic, for all you do. I see Jason on board here. I know he's working on this too. And so thank you all, everybody. And I guess we'll see you at 7 o'clock. Sarah, do you have any closing comments? Our clerk?
Nothing from me. We will be back at 7. Thank you.
Thank you.